Hi there, I'm Karen Dunn of KMD Productions. From the equipment manufacturers to the engineers to the business people behind the scenes. Over the years, every member of the Pro Audio corner of the music industry have become family to me, and it's my job to bring the whole eclectic crew together. Each episode, I'll introduce you to one of these characters and open a window into my world of creating community in Pro Audio. Thanks for tuning in to One and Done. Hi, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of One and Done. Today we have Dixie. Derek is a producer, engineer, musician, and an Emmy and Grammy nominated musical director. You're probably most notably known for Beyonce's live shows for the last decade and the artist she signs onto her label, Parkwood Entertainment. So welcome.
Thank
Derek.
you for having me. I'm good. How are you?
Good. I'm so happy that we finally have been able to do this. We've had a lot of missteps.
Yes.
But I'm glad that we were able to do this. I have a question first. I have a bunch of questions on my paper, but I wanted to ask you, I've noticed your post, you have these thoughts of the day on Instagram and your threads you post on there. And I'm really curious, like there's one, this one is from 3 days ago. And in the comments you wrote, no ceilings, no rules, no limits, be you, no hate, no fear, no lies, just truth.
Yes.
So a lot of what I'm seeing, it's inspirational. It really just grabs me. And I agree with all these things you're saying. I want to know why you started doing that. What's your inspiration for doing it?
I started doing it a long time ago. My first launch into even social media, as far as like a public speaking type thing, was back when I was on the Making His Band show, and I was kind of playing like a, hey, watch me on this show, catch me. And, I had some ideas of like actually watching the show and doing live commentary. But then it sort of morphed into, as I was going through some situations at that particular time and, just experiencing the music industry and disappointments and things like that, I started to speak out and try to put a lot of encouragement and a lot of light into just the internet scape, because I noticed it was a lot of the other side. So I said, okay, I'm a writer, and I forget what was the first thing, but it was actually people took it well when I first did my first post in that regard. And so I just kept doing it. And then I realized that I talk a lot and I write a lot. I started on Facebook, and then I tried Twitter for a second, and the character limitations bothered me. So I got off of that. And I had to adapt it over the, course of time. And actually working with Chloe and Halle, I think back in 2017 is when I got on Instagram, and they were like, you say a lot of cool stuff, but it's just too long. And, they kind of, pushed me into the direction of, maybe just posting a picture and giving my thoughts in the caption. And I started doing that. And then I started putting the words in the actual picture and just keeping, every once in a while I get a download, I call it, of just things, either because I experienced something or I remember something from back in the past. I try to keep it from being current with situations, just, to keep a mask, of privacy and things like that. But once I figure out what I'm dealing with and what the lesson is, I try to share that portion and not the drama. After I gather myself and get myself back into, humanity, I'm like, okay, how can I help people? Okay, I can help them with an answer and giving them the steps or the opinions of how I got through something, because I know everybody goes through the same thing. Everybody experiences it. And I've been really charged in the music industry lately because I know a lot of people are experiencing things in that world. So I'm just making deposits and giving people a little bit of hope, and also warnings and highlights of what I've gone through and what I've experienced.
Now, have you always been like this, where you want to always help people and be positive in the world?
Yes, I'd say so. But I'd say in the past, I've definitely been a lot more aggressive in my demeanor and in my approach, just, as a person. But then, after living life and becoming a man, that was back in the day when I was, developing into who I am. But there came a time where I experienced enough heartbreak and experienced enough situations where I realized that that energy is not the energy that I want to, bring into my life or into the life of others. And, also, I can't take all the credit. Being around my mother, My mother's a very positive person. She's a light in the neighborhood, and I have an aunt that also, she started doing, daily affirmations and sending it out to our family,
Uh-huh.
at some point, and she sends that daily. So it's just little pockets of those things that made me say, okay, I'm a good writer. I know how to form words. I've been told that. Before posting on the internet, I would have conversations with people and just sit down and talk with them, and they would always say, "Man, I wish everybody could hear this." So
Uh-huh.
it's just morphed naturally, but it's an accurate depiction of my own development and evolution. It's kind of happening in real time. I'm not a perfect person. I haven't figured it all out, but as I go and as I take these downloads and go towards the light, I just want to make sure I'm being the opposite of what I'm seeing as far as what I think is damaging to community and society.
Hmm. Now, do you ever get people requesting you speak about a certain subject?
I've gotten that a few times. Up until now, I was very, very busy with, working with B, and since I've separated from that space, I've definitely have in my psyche to be more intentional about that part. And, I
Hmm.
still always going to be music, always going to have, that in my back pocket. But I think the direction that I want to go in the industry is intention and
Hmm.
frequency and light, and just, if I'm going to complain about it, I might as well have a solution as well.
Right, right, that makes sense. So it sounds like you're trying to make your whole life be one of light and positivity.
Absolutely.
So
In an
so is that
imperfect way, but yes.
right? As perfect as you can be imperfectly.
Exactly.
Um, how do you does that include clients that you work with? How do you decide who you're gonna work with?
Well, I was locked into um, a certain level of clientele, with the entertainment company that I worked with private previously. I couldn't
Mhm,
really branch out, but um, usually I test people's spirits. I've fallen into some spaces where the spirit may not have been what I thought it was, and maybe had to take some step back after
mhm,
launching into some things. But, I think everybody has light inward, and maybe the dynamic doesn't work, you know, one to one. But that's what I really
mhm,
look for. I look for people that are either intending to be light or that are light, and that have a purpose and a certain level of intention, or on the other side of things, just friends. There's a lot of friends, like you mentioned Arnetta earlier, Arnetta Johnson,
mhm.
and she's
Uh-huh.
one of my friends. And if she's watching this, hopefully we can get her on one of these in one of these
Right?
interviews. But I've worked with her and produced a few records with her, and just off of being a friend, and she's taking care of me in the way that she could, but most of it is just based off of, that's my friend. And sometimes the
Mhm,
industry side of it gets intertwined, but I am very grateful for friends that are able to push through that side with me, and let me do my industry thing, but also aren't losing a friendship because of the industry side, which can be a little bit dicey sometimes. So that's usually how I
mhm.
choose who I work with. I'm a lot more careful now than I was in the past. That's for sure.
Do you think though when you're just starting out, do you have that ability just to pick and choose, or do you think you just need to take whoever is available just to get the credits and
No, I think you have a choice at the beginning. You just have to decide that that's what you want to do. It can be difficult to be a picker and a chooser. Um,
Mhm,
but I do think you still have a choice. Your choices just become very minimized if you insert standard and you insert,
mhm,
criteria. But I think you do have a
right.
choice.
If you're working with someone who is similar in thought and mind, how does
Mhm.
that change your final product as opposed to working with someone who maybe there's a little more you don't fit quite so well?
Well, I think for me, the final product changes in frequency, and I don't know how to explain this, within this time limit, but I'm a believer that the spirit of a thing, of whether it be a partnership or collaboration or even just a person, I believe that that can be transferred and sent out via frequency of music, melody, rhythm. all of those things. So the spirit of an interaction, or the spirit of someone's intention that you're working with, I think gets transferred over into the music.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that that affects the final product. Another thing that you may not have the final say on, and kind of what gets in the way, is just industry methods. You may have something that is amazing and great that you've created with someone and you both love it, or everyone in the room loves it, the engineer, the producers or whatever. And then you take it over to the label and they say, no, change this, change that, skip this, skip that, no, we don't like that, put that on the shelf. So I think that also changes how the final product, gets to the world as well.
Right. How do you deal with something like that where you've put your heart and soul into a project and then the label just says, no, this isn't, we can't use this?
I mean, if you want to stay in it in that regard, you just kind of got to deal with it. But I think that
Mhm.
the solution, and the solution that I'm trying to build on my end, is to make your own lane and get into the independent space. And
Uh-huh.
you may not, it may not be the same, glory, and it may not be the same light, and may not be the same, fandom, and all of those things. But that's why I want to make music with intention now, where those things don't matter. It matters, what do I intend to put out to the world, and whoever is supposed to receive it will receive it.
Mhm. Okay. I have no idea what a musical director is or what a musical director does.
Me neither.
So
I figured it out as I went.
Well, tell me exactly, well, not exactly, just tell me in general terms if you want, what do you do as a musical director?
Okay, so in my space, I'll take that back. I do know what in general what a music director does, and that
Oh,
is to
good.
take, it's in the name, to take music and direct it.
Mhm.
And usually that what direction you're going is at the direction of the artist. Or if the artist is not well versed in music and doesn't really know what to do, they rely on you to figure out how to present their music in the best way. Have all these ideas and you have to take it, and sometimes it's just taking pre-recorded tracks and figuring out a nice arrangement that would be good for presentation. Sometimes it's working with a band. And I think there's also, as far as music direction, there's people that music to direct plays and are the music director of, award shows, and the music director of a lot of things. And I think the overall gist of it is being kind of like the glue and the go-to to figure out how to execute visions musically.
Do you create the whole flow of the show then? Or is that
Where
something that you collaborate with the artist?
It's always a collaboration with the artist. At least in my case, there's always
Mhm.
a back and forth, and we'll change this for me. I know that there are some artists out there that work with other music directors where the music director gets full reign, and there's been moments like that for me. But definitely always an approval process, and kind of like going back and forth with whoever it is I'm working with.
Mhm. Do you enjoy the collaboration with different artists?
Yes, sometimes it can get a little. You can clash in ideas. It's never been
Mhm.
like something that I just despised, unless there was personal shots and attacks inside of the dynamic. But
Right, right.
outside of that, if it's not that and it's just creative back and forth, I love that, and I love it the most when the artist trusts me. I love it the most when the artist says, "This is what I want to do, but I trust your expertise and I trust your ear. But this is what I really want. So how do we make this happen?" That opens it up, because it gives you kind of acknowledgement of what your expertise is and what your profession is.
Mhm.
But also, if you care about the artist's vision, it gives you an opportunity to take it and say, "Okay, let me do my thing." And it's always a plus if they enjoy what you did.
Right, right. Uh, how do you get inspired to create whatever you're creating on stage?
I mean, I think most artists are just inspired by living.
Mhm.
I'm inspired by ideas. I'm inspired by creativity. I'm inspired by direction. So, if they say I want my show to feel like a a ping pong match. This has never happened, but this is just me
Uh-huh.
putting an idea. I want it to feel like the music is being tossed to and fro, speaker to speaker, and I am the ball being, hit back and forth. And I want the show to feel like a match. And by the end of the show, I want there to be a climax, and I want to be the winner. That's just me coming off the top of the head. But you
Right.
may run into a creative that may not know music, but knows what they want to feel, knows what they want to see, and then it's up to you to kind of like translate that in a musical way.
So it's like being an engineer, right? With an artist in the studio where they know what they're looking for, but they don't know how to get there.
Yeah,
So
it's a
same
lot of
kind of thing where you help them achieve their vision.
yeah, it's a lot of execution, and it's for some people it's delegation in order to execute. So I've been lucky to have a background of all of the worlds. I know how to engineer, I can produce, I'm a live musician, I can sit on the drums or bass or keys and play parts, I can edit, I can I'm kind of well versed in a lot of pockets. So I can do a lot of the stuff just well contained. But there are some music directors
Mhm.
that do it differently and are very successful. They may not know how to do all the things that I do, but they know who to hire in order to get that done. So I kind of have to do all of that. I have to hire the right people, but it's not just you doing it and executing it. It's knowing who to go to execute.
Uh-huh. Okay. How'd you get your start as a musical director?
In the capacity of now, as far as in the industry, I,
Yeah.
you know, it's probably important to do a backstory, but it probably will take too long. I've always been around music and in the church, playing music in the church, and my mother was a music director, choir director, I should say, and I watched her growing up directing choirs and teaching songs to people. My sister followed in her footsteps. There was a lady, she's passed on, but it was a lady named Bernadette Treese, who was also someone that was in that position as I was growing up in the church. Regina Perry, and just a lot of people. And as I went through church sectors, I've learned a lot about teaching music. And
Mhm.
then at some point, watching my own brother, construct music, and he's a producer and he's a musician as well. Watching his journey was inspirational to me. And so by the time I got to um, post high school, college, I had my hand in directing music just for church events, things like
Uh-huh.
that. And then in high school or in college, learn the ins and outs of working with an ensemble, kind of watching my professors, how they direct inside of a classroom, and teaching an orchestral piece or teaching a jazz ensemble. So I observed a lot of that. And then going to production and engineering school, having to teach students and teach them how to get from point A to point B in dissecting music and engineering. It just has been just like an accumulation of skills. And in doing that, I came to a kind of like a wall, because where I was teaching, I got laid off, and
Mhm.
I used that space to kind of put myself out there to do things in the industry. That was kind of like my first launch, and I ended up trying to be a touring drummer for a while, and that was my main focus. But then
Uh-huh.
in that process of meeting people, it morphed into sending tracks back and forth for Beyonce's previous music director, which was Kim Burst. Worked with her for a very long time, and then finally she trusted me enough to kind of pull me into that whole world. So that's kind of in a condensed way how I got to being the music director for Beyonce and all of the things she was doing in 2012.
So most people don't start their careers being Beyonce's musical director.
Yeah.
Why did you choose her, and what do you think made you stand out as the person for that job?
I didn't choose her at all. The choice was given to me. Um, I wasn't expecting to be in that space. However, once I found out, that the previous director, worked with her, obviously the aspiration of being connected some way was there. But I,
Right.
I was just doing what I was told for a long while until I was asked to come and be in her presence. So it wasn't me saying, "Hey, I want to be there. I want to be there. I was be there. It was do this, do this, do this, do that, and just being skilled enough to accomplish a certain level of tasks that were being
Mhm.
asked of me. And I think that translated into this guy actually may be able to handle this world. And it just went from 0 to 100.
Okay, but how did you handle that? Because if it was me, I'd be
Mhm.
totally intimidated, I'd be freaking out, I'd, like, total anxiety. How did you excel? How did you not get overwhelmed and actually perform really well?
Oh, I definitely got overwhelmed. But I think it's different. I probably handled it the way I handled it because I had no other viewpoint of what it was supposed to be. I didn't know what it was supposed to turn out. I just knew that I needed to get it done. And so when I came into that space, that's what I was concerned about, is just getting it done, making it happen. And I had the skill set in order to I guess perform. But I didn't have I hadn't worked with any other, like C level artists, or if you want to call them. I didn't go, it wasn't a slope. It was a it was
Yeah.
a
So
catapult.
so it was just normal to you, that's
Yeah,
just what you yeah.
yeah. In the moment, I think as the years went by, and I started to have conversations with different music directors about how they were doing it, and what the expectations were on them and their life, and just overall, I started to kind of understand. Oh shoot, wait, maybe maybe I might need to handle this differently, or maybe it doesn't have to all fall on me. Maybe I should make some changes and some adjustments because I'm doing a lot. But leading up to those moments of the actual difference being presented to me, I just thought that everybody worked the same way.
Yeah. How do you recover from how do you balance with all that pressure while you're working? How do you not just get beat down? How do you keep your confidence?
Um, I don't think I don't think you don't get beat down. It definitely is taxing, and it definitely beats you down. I think my goal of trying to prove who I was, and just get things done in excellence, and believing that the environment that I was in was one that believed in me.
Mhm.
I was driven by proving in that space,
Uh-huh.
So I didn't often even feel the weight of it until after the task was done. It was like, okay, my health is down, and I'm tired, and but because it was normal to me, it is what it is. It wasn't until I
Mhm.
started to actually have certain effects in my body, and physically, where I was just like, oh shoot, I remember one time I was working, and I was up for hours, 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 and it was one of the first scary moments where I was editing something, and then I couldn't open one of my eyes. It literally was just so tired
Wow.
that it stayed shut, and so
Uh-huh.
that was really scary for me. And I think during the time, seeing certain celebrities die, and and different people, and just leave this earth, and it's like the end. I think that kind of brought me into reality, and said I have to kind of keep my mental peace. And that's when I kind of started speaking out on just the internal thing. It didn't have anything to do with the
Mhm.
industry. The industry is an industry, but being a voice to, hey, take care of yourself, because people were telling me, I had people saying, Derek, you really pushing it, make sure you get your sleep, make sure you eat, but I was so in it, I was just like, oh, I'll sleep when I'm dead. I was I was
Right,
in that
yeah.
mentality, and I still believe in that a lot, but I think you have to reserve that type of execution and approach to things that are going to continuously feed back into you, and give you a replenishment in whatever way.
Mhm. So whether it's working out or getting enough sleep or eating
Yeah.
properly
Or knowing that you're,
or
financially stable, or being
yeah.
loved on, and knowing that you have a future that's secure. Like, there's all of these things that balance out the weight of something. And so
Mhm.
you just have to make sure that that scale is, in a good place.
But that it seems to me that takes time to be able to figure it out, especially if you're young getting into the industry, being able to figure out how to balance all of those things.
Yeah, I
And
think
what
if you get
you're
into it, if you get into it young, it's definitely a better thing. I didn't get into it until I was 31 and to this degree. So
Hmm.
I think that helped me also, to your point and to your question, how did I keep my mental space? I had already decided who I was as a man getting into
Hmm.
this space. I'm 31 years old, not all the way there, but there's very little that could pull me into a space of being destroyed completely. I
Hmm.
didn't have to deal with, I wasn't peer pressured into, any sort of substance abuse or anything like that. I saw it, it's around in the music industry, obviously, in the world. But,
Right.
I was already in who Derek was. So I think that
Right.
helped me, in that space. Sometimes it might have been a little annoying because I was, I know what I want and I know what I'm doing. And, I have like
Uh-huh.
some walls, but at the same time, I execute.
Yeah. So you started off as an engineer, right?
No, I started off as a musician. Yeah, I started off as a musician. My mom tells a story of me having French fries in my hand and using them as drumsticks. From a young age, I've always wanted to be a drummer. And then my mother, and my father got me into playing piano, and my father was a bass player. So later on, I started picking up the bass every once in a while. Definitely was in choral, choir in school, in
Hmm.
a band, and all of those things. So it definitely was a musician first before engineer.
And how was the transition from being an engineer to a musical director? And did that background and your musical background help you as a musical director?
100%, at least in the environment that I was in. I think being able to be a one-stop shop in a lot of areas, it helps with the flow of creativity sometimes. With getting things done, in one space rather than, waiting for files to come in and out. I could literally do like a blueprint of something off to the side on my laptop and say, okay, this is what it could sound like. And do you like it?
Uh-huh.
And if I put a real orchestra on it, obviously will expand, but here's an idea. So all of the areas, engineering, being in college and being around orchestras and having to write out music in my theory classes and all of those things definitely made me a stronger music director for sure.
Now, do you go on tour with artists?
I did for B, yes. I was there and for that main reason is that for editing and just getting ideas out there. Like if she was out there, and wanted to do a new DJ remix for the Atlanta show, I would be able to take my laptop and, drum something up, and then when she liked it, get it over to the playback engineer, the programmer, and get it inserted into the show. So I think that it served as a benefit. I would say, you'd have to talk to her to see, how she felt about it, but I think
Uh-huh.
that was the reason why I was on the road.
So it's not like it's a one and done. You create something or you and the artist create something and then that's what they do every show. There is an option of continual change. So you're always
I think with
working.
her and how she works, B specifically,
Uh-huh.
yes. So I've worked with some artists where it is, pretty solid, and I think that's the most ideal space. It lowers the amount of stress, to just have something that
Mhm.
what's going to happen in every space. But at the same time, being able to branch off and change this and change that, it definitely is something that puts some excitement into the shows and
Right.
every once in a while, obviously you don't want everybody stressed all the time having to change every second, but I do think that every once in a while throwing a surprise into a show is definitely something that you want to be able to do.
Yeah. Okay. Um, so what's a typical timeline with someone who's going on tour? How when do you start working with them? How many months or however before the performances start, and then how
i
long
think
is
that's
that?
I think that's dependent on the artist and the budget.
Ah, yeah.
Sometimes it can be months and months and months. Sometimes you only have a few weeks. So it varies. Definitely
Okay.
varies.
Okay. Have you ever been watching a performance and gotten just totally lost in the performance and the music and kind of forgotten your role, what you're there for, and just enjoyed it as someone who's just watching some great music?
Um, I'd say in the moment there are pockets of just being proud of the work that exists, especially when it has an intention. behind it, and especially when the artist is satisfied with the end result. I think those
Mhm.
are all moments. It's not necessarily at the performance. A lot of times those moments for me came in rehearsal, and came when, in the rare occasions where it's like, yeah, you killed that, or it's those moments feel like that to me, where I can sit down. And I think after something is presented to the world, especially with the internet and everything, it's always
Mhm.
good to see comments that say, "Oh my gosh, this sounded amazing. Oh, did you hear that musical transition?" Even though I'm not getting the necessarily direct glory for it,
Mhm.
knowing that, I contributed to that moment,
Oh, yeah.
obviously you're proud of that, and it's like, yeah, this is what it should be. Or, if you produce a song and someone says, "Oh, this song got me through the day. I love how this song does this." Yeah, they're
Mhm.
giving praise to the artist, but you knowing that you were part of it, it matters as well.
Yeah. I've been told that a lot of the live elements have to be recorded.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. If an artist wants to give a musical presentation but doesn't necessarily have the budget to have, 55 musicians on the stage, to get a full orchestra sound, or, they want a choir, but,
Mhm.
the set is too big to have a choir on stage. Sometimes in a live performance, you'll have things that are recorded beforehand that are used as sonic representation or enhancements for the actual performance.
Okay. And then how do you choose musicians that you're working with, or any of the different talent that you need to come in to help facilitate things?
I think it depends on what's necessary. I think you develop your kind of Rolodex of musicians as needed, as each gig comes up.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's unfortunately based off of maybe an aesthetic that is going to be a part of the piece of art that's, presented on stage.
Mhm.
Me being a music head, I always want my musicians to be able to play
Yeah.
very well. So that, if you're asking me how I choose, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for people that know how to play, people that know how to improvise, that can play not just off of charts and notation, but also can improvise on the fly, and do things from ear. I'm Above all of that, I'm looking for great spirits, great attitudes, people that can take
Mhm.
direction well, because it's horrible when you're trying to direct something and, you're getting, certain hesitation in execution. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm usually looking for. The spirit of somebody is number one. Then their playing ability is also, kind of in parallel with that.
Okay. When I met you at NAMM, I guess it was only 2 years ago, you were on an educational panel, and you've taught in the past. Um, so is giving back, and it sounds like a lot of what you do is giving back. Is that really important to you in your life?
It is, as far as knowledge, and just trying to keep the people that I'm engaged with in a space of forward motion and peace of mind,
Mhm.
knowing that I have their back. Um, it's a little hard sometimes when the industry inserts itself and the politics inserts itself into the fold. I wish that part didn't exist, because then you have
Mhm.
to navigate a little bit more carefully and a little bit more, at a distance. But if I could choose, it would be to work people in the exact way that you just said, just helping, and always having an environment that uplifts.
So is teaching something that you wanna prioritize going forward in your life?
Not necessarily prioritize. I think we all should be, consider ourselves teachers through how we
Mhm.
live our lives.
Mhm.
Um, but my priority, I would say, is to create a space in music that is geared towards helping people, and intentionally, whether it be physical healing, because I do believe that music can have that ability. I
Mhm.
believe you can listen to a piece of music and it get inside your ears, and then it travel into your cells, and it have an effect on your body that can bring you into a space of calm that allows your body to do what it's supposed to do. Just like when we're in sleep state, that's kind of like the superhero space of body healing the body is sleep. So
Right.
if I could do that constantly and with intention, that's really what my focus is right now, is to have intentional music that is geared towards, I have, something, in the works that is kind of hinting towards that, where it's like frequency engineered, uh, audible listening. And it's a play on feeling, it's like
Mhm.
FEAL. And that's something that I want to put in the forefront of what I create. I wanted it to all be in my brain to create this world that makes people feel.
Mhm. Well, I know if I'm, like, overwhelmed with work or stressed out or tired, if I listen to a song, and it's usually something, like, that I've heard for, like, 30 years, but there's that somehow it jars and it can change your whole mental attitude, right?
Mhm,
It's amazing what music can do for you mentally also,
mhm.
as in addition to healing the body, just healing your mind.
It's w- we call them brain waves, right?
Uh-huh,
I'm not a
uh-huh.
scientist, but we call this brain of ours and what it kind of puts out, and even in communication with our body, brain waves. So it would make sense that what's coming, and I made a mistake. It's frequency engineered auditory listening, not
Okay.
not audible. But yeah. So if the brain can send waves out, then waves can come into the brain and morph it and transform it into in a way that has specific intention. That's what I believe. And
Mhm.
like I said, I'm not basing this off of me being an astrophysicist. I'm basing it off of, just like you said, when you listen, you have an experience, and
Right,
depending on what you listen to can make you feel different ways. So just off
right.
of the human experience, I know that to be true. But my goal is to dive in. I think there's certain acoustic therapy that does this as well, that goes in and figures out what causes certain type of responses in the human body. And I just want to dive into it and know certain things, so when I'm creating a piece of music, the intention is there, from what's happening in my spirit, to what frequencies I'm allowing to come through, to how it's distributed to the world.
That it all sounds so interesting. I can't wait to see what you're gonna do with that.
Mhm. We have some things in the kitchen.
Okay, okay. Um, the community for me is a huge thing, and especially since the whole pandemic and all the shutdown of everything, pretty much that I'm doing is based on building community and connecting people.
Mhm.
Um, so, what I want to find out from you is what does community mean to you?
I think, and I'm finding out now, that community of people, especially musicians that you can trust, that aren't going to treat you a certain way, is important. And
Hmm.
building that circle of trusted individuals that aren't going to allow industry things to come in the way of keeping connection and spirit and camaraderie and friendship. I think that that's very important. And I think expanding that intention and being intentional about integrity and character, loyalty, all of those things is very important to me in regards to community. But I think, you know, even beyond that, I think it's also important to build communities with other types of creatives. I think there should be more
Hmm.
of an intertwining of, musicians and painters, or, fashion designers and musicians. It's all art, and it's all
Right.
shaping society, whether we want to or believe it or not. And
Hmm.
I think the more us creatives come together and build that super community, the more we can change the world.
Yeah, because these different areas of creativity, they can influence each other to
Absolutely.
create something that's even better than if they were just on their own.
Absolutely. And I think what sometimes happens in industry is things are so fast paced and so money driven sometimes and so deadline driven sometimes that everybody's working in their own world. This creative's doing their thing, this
Right.
creative's doing this thing, this creative's doing this thing, and the through line of intention sometimes can get lost. But if we
Mhm.
shift our focus and we have that through line of intention at the beginning, and everybody has the respect of what their space is, the art that is presented would expand. I don't even know what could happen. And I think you see it in some worlds, like just movies, for instance, the soundtrack and the visual.
Mhm.
It's that connection really, 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 really dictates how you're feeling as a watcher and a listener. It's just that a lot of times the music is way in the background, and it's not like both worlds are in the front. Movie is about what you see, but that music that's
Mhm.
connected to it. If you're watching a romantic scene and some tonka music, some honky tonk music comes on, it's going to change what that intimate scene feels like to the watcher. They can be doing the same exact thing, but if you put some sensual music behind it, now the experience is different, or vice versa. And so I know some directors do this intentionally. You're watching people get shot up or whatever they're trying to project, violence, but you hear a classical score in the background. It creates kind of
Mhm.
like this. They're intentionally making you uncomfortable. It's like I'm seeing this should be like guitars and drums and all sorts of weird stuff happen, aggressive things happening. But what these directors sometimes do is they, put you on edge and they have this beautiful music happening in the background, but you're seeing, violence. And I think that intention and figuring out how to do that, in just music listening is what I'm in, and taking that same intention that they do with the movies and just transferring it over to just listening, because sometimes you can't watch, you just have to have stuff coming in your ears.
Yes, I totally agree. I just a couple weeks ago, I watched 4 movies with a friend of mine,
Hmm.
and, the first one was called Reptile with Justin Timberlake and Benicio del Toro and Alicia Silverstone.
Hmm.
Never heard of it.
Hmm.
Halfway through, I'm totally freaking out because it was the music, and it wasn't like flowing music, it was this just, like, really jarring.
Hmm.
So, we got through the movie. Second movie we watched was The Equalizer. I had never seen any of them.
Hmm.
And that music was just, like, overblown, just, like, grandiose because it was Denzel, a superhero guy.
Hmm.
And it was just I forget sometimes how important music is to film,
Hmm. Yeah.
and that just seeing those right back to back, it was
Hmm.
just like, oh my god, music is just such an important thing, and it really changes how you feel and how you view the movie. And it like I there were parts of the Reptile I did not watch,
Oh,
but the music was still freaking me out
yeah.
because it was just so it was
Yeah, there's certain things,
so
um I remember when I was in uh a freshman in high school, there was a project, an English project we had to do, and I took Jack and Jill, the poem. Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail
uh-huh,
of water.
uh-huh,
Jack fell down, broke his crown, and Jill came tumbling after. I
uh-huh.
said the poem just regular, and then I created this scary music behind it, and it changed. It was like one of my first experiences in like an epiphany of like, whoa, music literally shifts. It doesn't matter what is even being said or what's happening. The music behind it
Mhm,
and the frequency behind it can change how someone is interpreting what is being said. So with that intention has been in my mind and in my spirit for a very long time, even before I got into the industry. But everything I think is coming full circle now, and I think I'm working with some people as well, and have you know some really interesting combinations that I can't wait to present to the world, that are showcasing this combination of frequency and intention via music. And I think adding the visual aspect to it is just another dimension to it. And with
mhm,
the invention of technology and trying to figure out that world, I think that the intention, human intention, is important, because everything is going towards digital technology. Let the
mhm.
computer figure it out. I don't want to lose. humanity. So I really want to figure out a way to create a platform in a space where we can feed that part of us and not lose it
Mhm.
to AI.
Do you see any positive aspects of using AI in what you're doing?
Definitely efficiency. If the computer can edit all of the breaths out of my 500 tracks, that's great. If 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 I'm pressed for time and I need to have a chord structure invented for me, it makes sense. Oh, I just don't like the idea of relying on it and
Right,
letting that be the end of the road. A tool,
right.
definitely. It would almost be like if you put a pencil in a robot's hand and you called that the art. It's like, no, the robot is
Uh-huh.
I want my human creativity, whatever, like you said, brain waves, that experience
Yeah,
that's happening inside of my actual biological brain. I want that there to be a translation of that, and I don't want to send it to a computer program for interpretation. I don't want that to be the standard. Supplement, sure.
right.
It's great. Let it be like a protein shake. Nobody wants that to be a protein
Mhm.
shake at Thanksgiving dinner.
Right.
It's a meal replacement every once in a while. Have you a shake, but I still want to sit down and have a real meal that was cooked by real people, and and enjoy it with my family and have the experience of the energy of that moment.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. If there's someone who's, thinking that maybe they wanna be a musical director, they're just starting off their career, uh, what's the best way to get started, and what skills do you think they need to bring into to that?
The best way, I think, I don't know if I have a best way, but I will say the way that I was able to get in it organically was through connections and, you know, getting myself in front of people that are already connected. I think the people nowadays, with internet being so in the forefront, I think having an internet presence of what your skill set is important, and having that
Mhm,
very visible, and just making sure your skill set is something that is um, very excellent. I think some people skip the excellence part and they rely on personality and things like that. And unfortunately, the music industry rewards that sometimes. You know, the,
mhm.
the talent sometimes gets pushed as second. But I think in order to last and have longevity and be able to execute, you have to make sure that your skill set is top tier. And I'm talking about your ability to understand music, your ability to you know read music and all of these, which those are my weak spots, but I do know how to read notation and things like that. I do know how to write, notes on a clef. I do know how to,
Mhm.
transpose for instruments. I do know how to engineer all of these things. I think anybody that wants to get into it, the more skills that you have, the more effective you're going to be.
Besides B, what are some of the projects you're currently working on that you can mention?
Well, there's a lot of secret projects that I hope to be able to mention soon, but I have still been working with Chloe and Halle and getting their live shows together. And Chloe just had her first tour. That was, I hope to be able to do some sort of presentation on how that tour was put together, because the show flow of that, I think, is very cool. And for her to be her first solo tour, I think it came out really well. Just recently, I worked with Halle and Madison Callie, her acoustic arrangement of Angel. So I was involved in just helping with the music in that regard. So I'm still dabbling in that way, but my focus right now is, number one, peace of mind, and then at the same time trying to build this world, with very intentional, uh, very very specified intention, healing,
Mhm.
peace, love, art, and hopefully we can put that into the atmosphere very soon. Looking for people, putting together a presentation to present to the world so we can get, a lot of this is in money based, that's usually the barrier. So putting together
Right.
something that, can get investors involved and all of that type of stuff. So once that's in place and we know what's going on, we can reveal what's happening.
I can't believe I'm learning nothing other than there's something coming that's going to be really great.
Well, you just have to be very careful because people will, people will take and do, so you just have
Yeah.
to make sure that when you do put it out there that it's ready to roll.
So I've done one vision board in my life, and that was right before the pandemic. So I'll never do another one because none of my, well, it took actually some of my vision board stuff happened, but it took like 4 years. So you seem to have a clear focus on what you want to do. So what do you see coming up? Or are there artists that you want to work with? Um, is it just this secret project you're working on? What do you have?
Um, it's not necessarily just artists. I just want everything that I do to have intention and for it to be in a space, in a spirit of love and, you know, acknowledgement and appreciation and all of those things. I think, there's probably some, I'm not really interested in being caught up in the imaginary allure of what the industry is right now. I think it's great for people that want that, but I want any space that I am a part of to just be full of genuine humanity and
Hmm.
love and intention, and to be able to separate from just a lot of things that are not necessarily great for me in my mind. I want to be valued either at top tier or, I don't want to play the game of, oh, well, come and give up your life for, 50 cents. It's,
Hmm.
it's like,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
there's a space for that, but what I want to do and where I see myself existing in the music world, I hope that I can be in a space where value is number one and intention is number one, and just, finding what that is. And it's very hard, there's, not everybody believes that you are what you believe you are. So
Hmm.
if you're going to do it, you got to believe in yourself and you got to create the area and the arena to display it. So that's what I'm focused on right now. It's not like, oh, I can't wait to, you know, do, Taylor Swift's Super Bowl. It's more so if Taylor Swift comes to me and says, I love your intention, I love your energy, I want that to be displayed when I do this world that I'm creating to, go to millions, and let's figure it out. That that's the type of stuff that I'm looking for. I don't want the, oh yeah, because you did this, we want to no, it's like let's have one accord of intention and just value and recognition of what it is that I do as Derek and what it is that you do as who you are, and let's intentionally bring it
Hmm.
together to create something great.
So do you think, I mean, you definitely have this certain vibe going on now.
Yeah.
Do you think that that vibe helps attract people with similar wants?
Yes, I think it does. I think the law of attraction is real, faith is real, manifestation is real. Um, uh, the frequency putting out karma is real. All of those things I think exist. I'm not a perfect person. There's certain things that I am now recognizing that I maybe have had a misstep in, but I understand that the intention of me now, now that I'm, not in that young, immature space, many, many, many
Hmm.
years ago, that I can transform that energy into something beneficial and something for good. And I think we have that ability for everything. That's why, I'm still a human being. I still get depressed sometimes. I still get into slumps. I still get angry. I still get into these worlds, but my intention is to transform that energy and get rid of it, toss it out when I recognize it, when it comes to me, and then know that I have the ability to make it whatever it is that I want it to be. And that's what I want. I want everybody in the world to be able to understand that that's what they can do and not be
Hmm.
controlled by something I actually learned today. Um, Something called cognitive ease. I learned, and it's like the thing that is easy to comprehend and understand and just accept is what we usually lean towards being truth and good. So I
Because it's easy,
exactly
right?
because it's easy. So
Yeah.
now it was they were explaining that certain places intentionally just keep saying something, even if it's not true, even if it's not correct, even if it's whatever it is that they want you to take in, they'll just say it a whole bunch of times and put it in front of you a whole bunch of times. And you may hate it at first. You're like, this is not true. This is not true. But if you hear it enough time, the cognitive ease starts to settle into your body and your brain. And you're like, oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, and you're uncomfortable with anything else that is not what was said over and over and over and over and over again. You now become uncomfortable with anything that wasn't in that easy space of comprehension. Anything that your brain has to reprocess or, you know, figure out, you reject. You start to reject the energy of it. And I was fascinated. I want to
Hmm.
do more research and look into it a little bit more, but I think it answered a lot of my questions of how certain songs become popular that everybody knows they don't like it. It's like it's like I really hate. That's what happens the first week. This song is trash, or I don't really like this song when it happens. But as long as it keeps being played, as long as it keeps existing, as long as you keep hearing the artist's name, as long as it keeps push, it's now all of a sudden creating this area of acceptance for it, and it becomes successful. And I think we have to be aware of that, what's happening. People spend millions of dollars in marketing for a reason. From what they put in front of you. McDonald's, I was having a conversation with a friend not too long ago about this. Everyone in the world knows what McDonald's is. Everybody
Hmm.
knows what the arches are. They've done their work now. They don't
Right.
everybody knows, but they still put money into making sure that they have a commercial on your television, or multiple commercials, or multiple restaurants, because they understand that repetition and creating cognitive ease of, oh yeah, let's just run McDonald's and get the 99-cent cheeseburger, whatever it is. That is what they want to
Hmm.
create, the convenience of it. And it doesn't matter if it's not good for you. It doesn't matter if it's full of, everybody knows that part too. But the cognitive ease makes us accept it and makes us just, oh yeah, let's let's go over here. You really have to be intentional about rejecting it, because if you just are rolling with the flow, which is what a lot of people do, you just fall into that. It's just like, yeah, it's McDonald's. This is what it is. This is where we're gonna eat today.
Not that we're bad mouthing McDonald's.
Not at all. I find myself in the drive-through every once in a while too. And it also for people that are low income. Unfortunately, right now, sometimes that's all that they can afford. So it's not like I'm saying,
Yeah.
oh, you should disappear. But as humanity, if we know that something is not necessarily good, then I feel like our energy should be into creating something that is better and putting that in front, and then making that affordable, and making
Sure.
making that what the
Yeah.
standard is. It's probably will take years and
Yeah.
years of intention, but it can happen. We can have a space where there's a healthy version of things. And I think even McDonald's is trying to do that. The
Hmm.
salads came, and the natural meat and all of these things. I think people to
Sure.
some degree are trying, but in the forefront is just making sure you want to go to McDonald's. It's not necessarily health.
Yeah. Well, and change is hard, right?
Yeah,
People don't like change. So
yeah.
if this is, this is what it's hard to think, oh, I should just, there's a better alternative.
And I think
So
tradition is
what if the
cool
alternative
sometimes.
isn't better?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think sometimes change is bad. It doesn't always have to be change is good, but I think you should take every space for what it is. And if you can look at something and say, we've learned more information about health, we've learned what these things are doing to our bodies. We've learned what is happening. So now change would be good because we know information that makes this not the best route. And I think that should be the focal point. We don't have to, point fingers or blame or anything. It's just like, what are we
No,
doing as a
no.
collective? What are we doing as a collective to
Right.
become better and more healthy and more at peace and less greedy and more, just pushing life,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah. So, changing the subject, what do you do outside of music? I've talked a lot about work-life balance. What do
Mhm.
you do to try to achieve that balance?
I'm figuring that out now. I was a workaholic for, the majority of my life. Music was my outlet and still, to a degree is my outlet. I've just now within the last few years been trying to be more intentional about self, health and things like that, watching what I'm eating and exercising. I've always been into weight training. I've been definitely going to the gym and lifting weights. I love that feeling of being strong. But
Mhm.
I do love food, so it's a
Well, but if you work out, you can eat.
for the most part. But if you have a goal in mind of losing, fat percentage, you definitely have to pay more attention to what you are
Yeah.
eating and kind of get it out of your system that eating is for fun. It's not, it's for survival. And you should probably eat the things that
Mhm.
are optimum for your body, which may not have the same taste as a juicy burger. But
Right.
I'm at this moment figuring that balance out. I love, chilling with, people that I care for every once in a while, just talking. I love talking. I'll hit a movie every once in a while, the theater. I go to the beach. Learned that there's a nice energy of being around the ocean and listening to the ocean. And
Yeah.
there's like a download frequency wise for that. So I'm really, trying to do that a little bit more often. Um, Writing helps me a little bit. Just
Mhm.
figuring out how to present ideas, via words is something that I do for fun. Um, yeah, it's a work in progress, I think, and I'm learning how to be more intentional with things outside of work.
Good. It's a good thing.
Hmm.
So you had a post recently about it's your frequency. uh, I don't remember what all the letters stand for, but about you were going to have a beach meditation and talk.
Hmm. That's
Are
what I
you
was talking
still?
about a
Are you?
little earlier. Yes.
Okay. So when are you going to be doing that, and how do people sign up for that?
Yeah, I started it off just like putting it in my story, finding out if I can get some fillers of people that I, actually know, and just gathering them in one place. I haven't set the date yet,
Hmm.
but once I have
Okay.
everything in space, I have to get a generator and kind of make sure that once people are there, that the experience is what it should be. But I'll be putting out another post just to, I put the feelers out this first time, and then probably within the next couple of weeks, I'll put out the definitive dates and things like that for those that are interested. I'm not going to
Great.
make it publicized though. It'll be more of us people reaching out to me and saying, I want to experience this,
Hmm.
which I've had quite a few people respond to that post. So, I probably don't want more than 20 people in this space. And
Yeah, it's a
it's,
good number.
yeah, it's more so to just create a focus group of, getting some information from people about how music makes them feel and how
Hmm.
certain frequencies make them feel. And I know these studies exist, I can Google search, but I think getting direct feedback from my peers it
Right.
creates a little bit more of an authentic exchange of information. So that's
Hmm.
what that's about. It's
Hmm.
just, really just getting my
Okay.
feelers out and launching this thing into, manifestation.
Okay. Okay. Last question.
Hmm.
And this is the last question in all my podcasts.
Okay.
So I'm going to come visit you.
It's
So you need to tell me where we're going to go eat. What are we eating? What are we drinking? What music are we listening to? And what are we talking about?
ah, what was the first thing? Where are we going?
Where are we gonna go?
I think to the beach. I think
Okay. That's
I think that's a peaceful place. I think food wise, there's a large majority of places, but where I've been going recently is to a place called Hank's and getting like a good burger. It's very delicious.
mhm,
I've been going picking it up and then just going to the beach and just listening and watching and hearing. And I think as far as what we're talking about, it's whatever. I like talking about everything, anything and everything, as long as it can stay in the world of positivity or good intention solutions. There's
mhm,
a certain frequency and energy, like even with the war going on right now, and the what we're hearing.
mhm,
I've had that conversation with a few people, and you have to be very delicate about how you address it. But I'm always down to talk through things like that because I think we are all humans. We all experience moments like that differently. And I think the more we
mhm,
speak about it and the more we get perspective from other people, it kind of brings us into a humane space of thought. And, we can probably start to put the energy out there to avoid some of this. I think there's things at play that we may not 100% understand in a lot of ways. And in my opinion, there's a spiritual side, there's an unseen world that adds to a lot of the things that are going on right now. And I think that that's
mhm.
part of what my intention is too, is to, combat that unseen world with pure intention, pure spirit. And it's a lot of it, it starts with conversations with the person next to you.
Right. Yeah. Well, I don't know if you can tell, but behind me, all those photos are beach scenes or having to do with water.
Oh, wow.
So I'm totally down with going to a beach with you.
Oh,
I am. That is my place.
got it. Well, see, you probably be able to tell me more about the beach then, because it looks like you've been to quite a few.
I have. Yeah. Well, this was it. This was great. I'm so glad that this finally worked out. It's been wonderful talking with you, and I'm really hoping I get to spend some time with you in person
No problem.
soon.
We'll do another outing, maybe with Jules and everybody.
That'd be great.